Greetings and welcome to our second edition of our new show, the Senate Soapbox. This show provides information on policy, legislation, and budgets throughout the state of New York. And today I am honored to have such a wonderful individual who's been doing great work in SUNY, Dr. Carlos Medina. He is the Vice Chancellor of SUNY and the Chief Diversity Officer. His main job is to manage the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at SUNY. He's been at this job since 2011, and he has 64 campuses, which is the largest higher education system in the nation. So he has a very difficult job, but he's been doing it in an incredible way because as a result of the work that he's doing in his leadership, SUNY has received the prestigious Higher Education Excellence in Diversity, HEAT Award. And he's received this since 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Dr. Medina is a fellow in the prestigious and internationally recognized American Council of Education, the nation's premier higher education leadership development program, where he prepares senior leaders to serve American colleges and universities. So the fact that he's received these awards for about 6 or 7 consecutive years speaks volumes on the wonderful work that he has done. Welcome, Dr. Medina.
Thank you, Senator. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here to discuss some of the issues that are impacting diversity in our higher education, and specifically in our SUNY university system. So SUNY has 64 campuses and enrolls over 450,000 students. Again, it's the largest public university in the nation. Tens of thousands of city students and college students throughout SUNY, upstate campuses, and here at Maritime College attend. So tell us, what is your role in managing SUNY, and can you give us, our viewers, some background on the office that you run for SUNY?
Thank you. Great question. First, in all fairness to SUNY, let me clarify some of the numbers for you, and then I'll get into more specifics regarding the office. But the State University of New York, as a system, really does have many more students than that 435,000. When we look at across the entire year, meaning the fall semester, spring semester, and summer, we actually enroll about 600,000 students. If we look at adult continuing education students and those that are seeking certificates, we're probably looking at 1.5 million students. So that's quite an enterprise.
Wow, that's a big
of higher
enterprise,
education.
sure. Yeah.
So that clearly makes us the largest comprehensive system of higher education in the nation. I'm proud to say that in administering and having oversight for diversity out of the office, we do some really good work across the entire system. And that is that we look at policy initiatives across the system in terms of how we advance diversity and inclusive excellence. I manage a host of programs and services for the university as well. We have graduate level programming and fellowships. We have undergraduate honor scholarships. We have a Native American initiative. We have a travel abroad initiative because we know that abroad experiences are transformative in nature. And unfortunately, underrepresented students, because of cost and possibly lack of exposure, don't take advantage of international experiences.
Well, Dr. Medina, your work speaks for itself. I mean, I've heard you speak before. I've had conversations with other individuals that are part of either Committee on Higher Education in the Assembly, now in the Senate. And, you know, I'm really thrilled to have you doing this kind of work. But tell our viewers, why is it the concept of inclusion and diversity so important in higher education?
Well, you know, the concept of diversity and inclusion is not a new concept. It's been important for quite some time. And in fact, if we compare higher education to the private sector, certainly the private sector is ahead of the curve because they looked at their bottom line and have made a business case for diversity for quite some time. Higher education has many challenges, and one of those challenges has been the increasing demographics and the realities behind those demographics that we're seeing today. That is that overall, we have a more diverse student body, and that is reflective across the entire nation, and those numbers will continue to change. If we look at the Hispanic population, for example, in the 0 to 24 age group in the next 20 years or so, that population is going to grow by 127%. So when you look at it from a representational perspective, diversity becomes critical.
Can SUNY or CUNY or any university system that's public survive without tackling the issue of diversity?
Absolutely not. I think that there is an imperative, and as a result, it's an urgency, right? That is that if we fail to address the issue of diversity and inclusion, we will fail to be vibrant, we will fail to be viable and relevant. And so this is why this work is so critically important.
And what work have you done? I mean, again, I've known of your work, but tell us some of the stuff that SUNY's engaging in to make sure that we have a robust
Sure.
diversity program.
Sure. So one of the things that has made us quite unique as a system is that about 2.5 years ago, I led, along with the provost, a task force that was representative of all of SUNY in all of our sectors, because we have community colleges, we have comprehensive institutions, and then we have the doctoral serving institutions as well. And we led that task force as a charge that was given to us by the Chancellor at the time and the Chairman of the Board of Trustees. And what we looked at was, how can we make SUNY more viable? What can we do to really ensure that we do this work and do it well? And so as a result of that work, we developed a resolution that led to a policy across the state of New York relative to SUNY that we now call the Policy for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And what that does is essentially really make SUNY incredibly inclusive. Our goal is to be the most inclusive system of higher education in the country. So how do we do that? That policy has within it some real teeth, meaning that we made every single 64 of our campuses submit to us a comprehensive strategic diversity plan. That plan speaks to issues of representation, not just on a student level, but also on a faculty and staff and leadership level.
Which was going to get you to my next question.
Exactly.
Yes.
But beyond that, that's the diversity part.
Right.
The inclusion side is we're very concerned about campus climate. And so, we wanted to ensure that every single campus had a chief diversity officer. It didn't exist before. Now we have a chief diversity officer at every single one of our campuses. Besides that, the issue of campus climate, we made sure that the kinds of things that are important to have professional development on, like cultural competency training, how you go out and do searches to ensure diversity, all of those kinds of things are accounted for.
How do you measure success with these kinds of programs?
We measure it by having specific metrics. So we know from year to year, and keep in mind that this policy is fairly new, and the implementation of the policy is about a year old. So we'll be looking to see if the dial has actually been moved, okay? Along the lines of student access and success, along the lines of more faculty of diverse backgrounds, and leadership as well.
Well, does diversity also impact, let's say, the Board of Trustees and university presidents?
Absolutely.
64 campuses, by your measurement, about 500,000 to 600,000 students. Yet SUNY has only one Latino president of a university.
That's correct.
I think it'd be safe to say that the Board of Trustees is probably lacking diversity as much as the issue with the university president. What steps are we taking to improve that? I mean, I think that's one of the areas where we have to focus a lot, because university presidents provide role models for future academicians that maybe want to be interested in becoming a university president, but we don't have that at SUNY.
Well, thank you for asking that, Senator. I think that is a critical question. It's a question that the senior leadership within SUNY is taking that into consideration, and is very serious about moving the dial along those lines too. Yes, you're correct. There is one Latino president, and he happens to be at the University of Albany, which is a doctoral serving institution. We're very proud of his appointment, but quite clearly, we have to do better than that. I'm concerned about our community colleges, because our community colleges are emerging Hispanic institutions. Not all of them, obviously, but a handful. Mm-hmm. And so having Latino presidents would be critical for the reasons that you stated.
And also, just so to be clear, I mean, I know we have also similar type numbers amongst the African American community, where we don't have many presidents, many members of the Board of Trustee. I mean, we know about Carl McCall, but certainly, one doesn't make up for.
No, you're correct.
That's right.
We've done a better job with African American SUNY presidents. We have 9 or 10 black presidents currently, and we're very proud of that. I'd love to equal that on the Latino side. And so it starts with awareness. It starts with aggressive outreach and making the kind of partnerships that are going to be essential to attracting really senior people to come to SUNY as presidents.
Give me,
who are diverse.
if you know, give me an example of a type of outreach that you're making so that you can increase the number of individuals of color to reach these positions as presidents, board of trustees, and other leadership positions throughout SUNY.
Okay, so it starts off with partnerships. And I think that as large as we are as a system, we have to make sure that we're always in contact with other institutions that we can draw from across the nation. And as the profile of SUNY becomes even higher, and I think our current chancellor really does bring quite a bit of gravitas to SUNY, that makes us more visible. I think that the kind of conferences that we're doing from a diversity perspective is bringing national thought leaders in this area to SUNY to speak.
But are these conferences reaching out?
Yes, they are.
Bringing potential candidates. I attended a forum recently in the city at, I believe it was Hunter College, where we talked about university presidents. And there was one university president who came from Puerto Rico. Another one, but she was a university president somewhere in the Midwest. There was a couple of other schools that had people throughout the Caribbean. There was some concrete efforts to reach out to them, but I find it hard to believe that the effort can only lead to one Latino SUNY president in the history of SUNY.
That's right. That's right. So this is a sensitive area. And we have to do better. We have currently a Hispanic Leadership Institute that we've implemented.
Yes.
We're very proud of that. We got 12 fellows in that class currently. And I think that eventually that will lead to some changes.
Now, this leadership, can you just describe what the purpose of the leadership is and what the goal is? Because I think a lot of people don't know about this, and I think it's critically important that people who want to be in academia understand and know what this program is about.
Sure. Thank you for asking about that. But the Hispanic Leadership Institute is an effort to really address the shortage of Hispanic senior leaders, not only in SUNY, but throughout the country in higher education, because this is not an issue that SUNY only has. Okay, this is something that is really across the entire country. But we began to work with the legislature as well as the governor's office to really design something that would address this particular issue. Dr. Ricardo Aziz is the lead on that, but my office supports this effort as well. And so what it is an opportunity to bring folks who are going through the pipeline right now, either as faculty or administrators in the middle management positions, to come to SUNY within this institute and get more professional development.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to have clarity. Do you go out outwardly and recruit individuals, or do you put notices out about this institute and encourage people to apply?
We put notice.
What's the effort?
We put the notices out throughout SUNY because we were really concerned with those who are at SUNY right now and giving them an opportunity to get the kind of professional development that's needed to become aware of what it really takes to be a senior leader. Okay. And so that's how we got to 12. They're all SUNY folks. They're not from the outside. I think that as we move forward with this program in its first year, we might entertain bringing people from the outside. There is currently, however, a senior leadership institute that's done through Rockefeller College that does address that issue as well, but it's not specific to Latino leadership. It does bring Latinos in as part of the core, but that's more widespread. That does bring national folks. And so we're ready to do that in June. The participants of the Hispanic Leadership Institute will be part of that effort as well. So they'll get exposed to national people.
Well, that's a great thing. Now, we know that your work in diversity has increased the numbers. Many of your students that I represent, for example, communities of color, African American, Latino, South Asians, they come to the university as a result, let's say, of your outreach. What kind of support system are you providing so that these students not only attend the SUNY school, but are ultimately successful?
Correct. So, we're proud of the work that we're doing at SUNY. Our graduation rates are pretty good, especially compared to our sister schools. So, for example, if we look at our 4-year graduation rate, it's currently about 53%. But if you look at national public institutions, it's probably 15 to 20 percentage points lower than what SUNY is realizing. We're proud of that. If you go out to 6 years, our graduation rates hover around 70%. And that's quite an achievement. And the reason why we're hitting that is because we got a lot of supportive type services across SUNY, including the Educational Opportunity Program, which serves about 11,000 students a year. And so the issue of retention and completion is critical to us. And there's all kinds of initiatives that we are engaged in to ensure that we graduate more students.
Well, we have, at least let's talk about the Bronx, where we have probably one of the lowest graduation rates in the state, certainly even lower individuals from that point that go on to college. So some that do go, they just can't, some of them have to work, some of them are parents, some of them are going to community college. And I think that's one area where perhaps SUNY has to spend more resources and focus on, because I think you can get a good pool of potential graduates from that area. I don't know if that's part of your focus, but it should be.
Well, our 2-year schools is part of our focus, and we're very concerned about the success rate of those students, particularly because we know that there's so much demand on their time. Okay, so if you look at your typical 2-year college student in our community colleges, they're working 30 hours, they're taking care of family, and quite frankly, about 50% of the students that go are Latinos. They go to 2-year schools more so in some cases.
Right, and when you see the Excelsior program,
Exactly.
it doesn't help these students, and I think that's one major flaw.
Right.
To say that it provides free college education to everyone is at best inaccurate.
Right.
But a lot of our students are single parents, and I don't think that we can increase the numbers to a level that would satisfy, I think, other ethnic groups, unless we're able to provide more support for these 2-year students who have to raise a family or have to have a job.
Support is critical, and also being mindful of remediation. And some of this, there are so many of our students that have to go through a remediation type of cycle. And so being mindful about how we can reduce that is critical, because we know that the longer a student is in school, right, the less of a chance that student will have to graduate. So we want to lessen that amount of time.
And more debt they'll be in when they graduate.
And more debt.
Which is part of the problem.
Exactly.
Now we know that, let's talk future.
Sure.
We know that I'd say about 65% of most positions in the future, jobs in the future, are going to require some sort of degree in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the STEM program.
Exactly.
What is SUNY doing to prepare these students that are coming in as part of your diversity program to succeed in that area? Because I believe that if we don't, our students are going to continue to fall behind, even if they get college degrees.
Absolutely.
STEM is where it's at.
STEM is where it's at.
STEM is where your higher paying jobs are going to be at in the future.
Absolutely.
So how do we get success amongst the groups that you're trying to target?
Well, what we know is that minority students, for example, are just as interested in STEM as anybody else. And we're very mindful about that. The trick is, how do we ensure that not only are these students can be admitted into STEM disciplines, but how can they succeed? I can tell you that from my office's standpoint, I have done a conference that has dealt with best practices, that really brings to light the kind of things that should be in place to help underrepresented or historically underrepresented students pursuing STEM degrees and also succeeding in STEM degrees. We have a Bridges to a Baccalaureate program, for example.
I've read about that before.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the viewer what that is?
So, there is a chemist at one of our institutions, in fact, Purchase College. His name is Dr. Joseph Scrivenac. And I've attracted him to my office because he's done some great work at his institution developing a program called Bridges to the Baccalaureate. In fact, he was recognized by President Obama for his mentoring and his strategic approaches to ensuring success with students. And what it is 2-year college students come into his program.
It's strictly 2 years, 2-year college.
Well, 2-year to the 4-year.
Right.
Okay.
There's a requirement that they go to the 4-year, or they start in as 2-year?
They start off at the 2-year.
Okay.
They start off at the 2-year. They come in for a summer bridge program. They get exposed to undergraduate research and mentoring by a senior faculty member, and they do experiments and all kinds of things during that summer. Then they get supported once they go into the regular school year, and the success rate has skyrocketed.
What's the support system that they provide? Because a lot of time that is the difference between success and failure.
Academic enrichment and support, tutoring, counseling. There's a variety of different approaches that are used.
They provide any type of financial support?
Financial support, there is some financial support, but clearly for the 2-year college students is really more about the academic supports that are really needed in order to ensure that they do well in these courses. Because there's so many gatekeeper courses, as I call them, in the area of science and math. Okay, so we make sure that they succeed in those courses.
And you said your own guideline, your own measures of success for your program.
Absolutely. In addition to that, we have this year a performance innovation fund that we've put in place. The Performance Innovation Fund. We call it PIF.
And where does that funding come from?
That funding is coming to us from, I believe it's the legislature through SUNY to us at the program level. And one of the things that we've done is we've created a community of practice, as we call it, around diversity. And we got 3 different areas that we're focusing on. One is best practices in diversity and inclusion. Another one is dealing with professional education and training, like cultural competence kinds of things. And then the last is STEM pathways. So we want to ensure that the kinds of things that are needed to be done to raise awareness, to ensure success are being done through this community of practice.
All right, that's...
So we're very excited about that.
You know, I'm just as excited for you. I mean, I'm a member of the Higher Education Committee in the New York State Senate, and I am ravenous about finding kind of programs that succeed to get our kids to go to college, to graduate, to get STEM types of degrees. I know that in the future we can get jobs for individuals, but if you don't have that preparation that you need, then the poverty gap is going to continue.
Exactly.
So you want these kids to get the degrees now and work in these technologies, because without that they're going to continue to fall behind. There's just no way around it.
Absolutely. And we need to do all that we can to shrink the gap, the achievement gap, as we call it.
That's right. And again, I mean, it's something that you can't control. It's the educational system locally, the public education system. We have to work on that. But that's part of a joint team effort so that we can have success. Now, we look at the political climate today. We see the policies and the rhetoric that's coming from the federal government. We're seeing a spike in hate crimes. We're seeing a spike in racial tension throughout this country. And we're seeing some of that sort of filter into colleges. What has been your experience? Is there any particular problem that you think that we should discuss? And what efforts is SUNY making when you have a problem to correct any issues?
Well, the last 2 years in particular has been the kind of years that we have experienced issues along these lines. We've had various campuses that, because of, let's say, racial tweets or other kind of race-related language in social media, has exacerbated issues on our campuses. And it has led to campus unrest, students protesting and that kind of thing. My role as the Chief Diversity Officer for the system has been to help mitigate some of that. In fact, I've been on 3 different campuses to meet with the senior administration, meet with students, and really talk through some of these issues. We're very concerned about this, and we've put in place bias teams. We've put in place a level of awareness that it's going to take to kind of deal with these issues as they come about.
Are you satisfied with the efforts that SUNY has made?
I think that this is an area that you can't do enough. You just have, it's a work in progress. You can put an infrastructure in place that will help a given campus respond as quickly as possible. But quite frankly, the national landscape right now is so sensitive and polarized that I think you still will have individuals that will use hate speech under the First Amendment to express
Has there
themselves.
been any situation when a student has been expelled or has been disciplined in any of the campuses at SUNY?
We've come close we haven't expelled anyone because the First Amendment does protect students, it protects your average citizen.
But it doesn't protect hate crime.
But it doesn't protect hate crimes. Fortunately, we haven't had a hate crime per se. We've had issues that have exacerbated issues, has further polarized, but it hasn't been determined that it's been a hate crime.
Well, hopefully we're going to keep our ear to that because it's important
It's
in
critical.
this particular climate. We want students to feel comfortable about where they are at SUNY. But in the little bit of time that we have, tell me about your participation in the ACE Fellowship Program and what you expect to gain by the training that's provided there.
Thank you, Senator, for asking about that. The American Council on Education is really the oldest professional organization in higher ed. It celebrated 100 years in March. And they developed a very senior leadership program that's now 50 years old. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to participate in that. It's competitive in nature. There's about 40 or so fellows across the nation that are selected each year. And so I'm the only fellow coming from the system office, and I've been immersed in a whole nother system of higher education. And I've been in Houston, Texas, actually. And it's been a wonderful experience to be there, to have an opportunity to shadow a president in such a diverse student body as Houston has. And so what I expect to get from it and what I've gotten from it, because it's almost a year now, and I'll be done with this fellowship in another couple of weeks, is that I've had an opportunity not just to observe and see senior leadership doing what they do to run a campus, but I've gotten really high-level kinds of workshops that I've attended on budgeting, on advancement work, on all kinds of things that are germane to being a senior-level administrator.
Well, Dr. Medina, I can't think of a better person to run a diversity officer for SUNY. You've done a wonderful job. Myself, other members throughout in the Senate and the Assembly talk highly about your efforts.
Thank you.
So on behalf of certainly the students that I represent and the students throughout the state of New York, students of color, we're certainly appreciative of the work that you've done. Keep up the great work, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show to discuss other issues that impact SUNY.
Thank you, Senator, and
Thank
good
you so
luck
much
to
for
you,
being-
sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is the Senate Soapbox. Please stay tuned for future programs that will be coming to you. We're going to address so many issues. Thank you. And again, thank you, Dr. Medina, for the great work that you do.
Appreciate it.